Perek Chafhei, chapter 25, Pasuk Tet, in the middle of the Perek. Shlomo Melech says, Dvash matzata echol dayeka, pentis ba'ina ba'keto. If you have found honey, eat enough for you, lest you become sated with it and vomited. Too much of a good thing is also not good. There's a saying in Yiddish, everything which is too much is no good. You have a lot of things that are good, but if you have too much of it, an excess amount of it, it's like having tuna fish for 30 days in a row. After a while, you get sick and tired of it. So Shlomo Melech points out to honey, which is good, if you have the right amount, not too much of it, have it. But don't overdo it because you will come to vomit it. Except for Torah, obviously, and good deeds, anything which is in excess may not be too good. And he gives us this introduction because he's about to talk about friendship. Friendship is something good. But even in the area of friendship, there might be something which is overdone, which can destroy Halila, an otherwise good friendship. And that he says in the next pasuk, Hokar raglecha mibit re'echa, ben yizba'acha usne'echa. Visit your neighbor sparingly. Don't come too often, lest he become sated with you and hate you. It's good to visit from time to time. It's good to talk from time to time. Good friends, of course, enjoy each other's company very, very much. But even that, if it's overdone, if you visit, he makes sure to point out that we're talking about a visit to the other individual's home. If you overdo it, he's going to get tired of you, and in the end, he's going to hate you. So, what's interesting over here, as the commentators explain, is not only can the friendship cool off as a result of the continuous visits, it could actually have begun with a good relationship, with a friendship, and turned out, in the end, usne'echa. He will hate you. He won't like you anymore. So in other words, a person with his own actions does not realize that sometimes he's overdoing something, and the other individual obviously is embarrassed to tell him, feels uncomfortable to tell him, don't come. And what this is really pointing to is to certain personalities, certain types of individuals who don't realize the importance of the privacy of another individual. We're talking about his home. One has to be sensitive, not to call late at night. Maybe he doesn't like it. Now, obviously, when two people are very, very close, everything is possible. You can call him at 3 o'clock in the morning and he won't mind, even if he was sleeping. I'm sure it must be important if he's calling at that hour. Otherwise, what kind of a friend is he that he wakes you up at 3 o'clock in the morning? But if it would be a very good relationship, that would never be a problem. But not everybody is that fortunate to have that level of friendship where he can feel truly confident that no matter what he says and no matter what he does, as long as he means well, that the other one will misunderstand it or take it the wrong way. But ordinarily, one has to be careful not to feel at home unless the other one tells you, feel at home. And even then, he made you feel comfortable in his home. Don't stay for 4 or 5 hours. He may be uncomfortable to tell you, it's time to go home. This could happen at the Shabbat table. You invited somebody for Shabbat, and he doesn't leave. What do? And this is not even a friend. What does that tell you? There are individuals out there who are not sensitive. That's all it is. It's a lack of sensitivity for the person's privacy. And, he did you a favor, appreciate it, but don't take advantage of it. Don't abuse it. And I don't want to give you worse examples of people that do worse things beyond that. But that's what he's saying over here. You want to maintain a good, positive relationship, you have to know how much how much time to devote to it, how much effort to apply to it, what to say, what not to say. You can't assume that certain things are okay without asking permission. For example, you can't open your friend's letter without asking his permission.
Gershom said that.
It's a halacha. There might be something that he does not want you to know. Imagine going into someone's house without knocking. Same thing.
The Holocaust.
Yeah, no, you can't just do that. You know, we have to respect other people's privacy. We have to be sensitive to certain things that the other individual may be simply embarrassed to tell us about. Yeah.
But if an Orach comes to your house, Rabbi, like you just gave the example, you
Uh-huh.
don't want to leave, you don't want to violate the mitzvah of Haknasat Orachim by telling them it's time to go. You can't do that so simply. He doesn't have the seichel to understand, like you said, he's insensitive.
Just tell him, let's go for a walk. Yeah. You know? Think of something creative, yeah. Yeah. And by the way, don't forget your jacket. Listen, some people, you know, it has to get a little nasty because they don't understand. They really don't understand. And you have to tell them straight out, listen, you know, it was very nice having you, you know, it's late and...
we want to go to sleep.
Yeah, something like that. You know, they won't understand anything else. Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, people who overdo it may not be invited again. Yeah, that's so that's another idea in this pasuk. Usneecha, you won't want to have a kesher with you anymore. So you have to watch yourself. You want to have a good relationship with people. You know, you have to respect their privacy. The next pasuk, mefritz v'cherev v'chetz shanun ish oneh b're'u ed shaker. A man who testifies falsely against his friend is like a club, a sword, and a sharpened arrow. He lists 3 tools over here that can be very damaging when somebody gives false testimony. Now, what is false testimony exactly? It's not necessarily in a court where one goes over and gives false testimony, because if he's by himself, they won't listen to him. You need 2 witnesses according to the Torah. So whenever we're dealing with one witness, is simply a situation of possible lashon hara, because he may not be telling the truth. He's telling his side of the story, and he's only one. He's being reminded that nevertheless, even though he's one individual can do a lot of damage. His tongue, his testimony, his offering information is like a hetz. It's like a herev, it's like a sword, it's like an arrow. It can do a lot of damage. In other words, one has to be careful when he's going to talk about another individual. He's going to be giving over information that he has investigated, that it's he who had observed it, not that he was told by somebody else who heard it from someone else. You know, the more it goes down from one individual to another, it loses. And that's how rumors spread, and you lose the accuracy. And we're talking about here giving information about human beings. It could be very damaging. It could be like a herev, like a hetz, destroying their reputation, destroying their lives. So even though it's only one witness, he has these very dangerous tools in his hands, and he better be careful. Next pasuk, Shen ro'a v'regel mu'adet miftach boged b'yom tzara. Like a broken tooth or a loose tooth that is about to fall, and an unsteady leg is trust in a traitor on day of trouble. The words appear to be a little bit difficult. What he's really trying to say is that there are some individuals who you better be careful with. You can't fully trust them, because it's like a tooth that is about to fall out. You can't rely on this individual because it's not steady. He's not steady. Regel mu'adet. In other words, even though he may be in a high position, it's not a permanent position. It's an unsteady foot. That is the exact same with a miftach boged, when one relies on a traitor. How does one know if one is a traitor or not? Well, b'yom tzara, in time of trouble, that is when we are able to figure out who is a true friend, who is a boged. Now he goes to the extreme of saying a boged. He's not just saying he is not a friend. He's not even saying he's a soneh. He hates him. He's calling him a boged. A boged is a traitor, which is worse than just an enemy. A boged is somebody that actually does terrible things to one. In other words, what you thought at one time that this individual was okay, was friendly, you discover later on that he's just the opposite. He's a traitor. A traitor meaning that he can Hazram turn you in to the enemy, A traitor is one who turns his back against you. That's a traitor. And who is he talking about? Goyim? No, he's talking about Jews. Unfortunately, this has happened too many times where Jews have become bogdim. Not necessarily because they always were. They may have been normal people leading normal, decent lives. But in a time of tzara, like in World War II, you had kapos. You had Jewish police who turned over Jews. And as the Prophet has said already back then, your greatest sources of troublemakers will be from amongst you, Jews themselves. And that's unfortunate. So he's saying you have to be careful. Never put your trust in a human being. That's number one. But number two, just remember that the one you think is reliable, is trustworthy, may turn out to actually be a boged. Not just an enemy, not just not friendly, but a boged. So be careful, be wary of that.
What's a boged?
A traitor. Yeah.
Moser, Rabbi. What's a Moser?
Moser is one who in English is called a...
Informer?
Yes, an informer.
But,
Right.
what are you trying to say though? I mean, you're trying to say that if someone's unstable,
No,
how do you know who this
you don't know. When will you know? B'yom tzara. In day of trouble. That is when you can really figure out who is with you and who's not with you. And because of that, you may not want to wait till a Yom Tzara. Just be wary of them. How? I personally feel that Shlomo Melech reveals to us some of those characteristics that you may see in individuals if you look hard enough, that will tell you a lot about them, that is not so evident on the surface. And that, yes?
I'm sorry, is this what was in mind when they created the paragraph of Malshinim?
That's right. Lamalshinim, laminim v'lamalshinim. That is the beracha that was added because of the amount of trouble they were having. A lot of trouble. So they added that into the Shmoneh Esrei. That's true.
The rabbis
Yeah.
come up with the expression, respect but suspect, Rabbi.
That's in the Gemara too, kabdeo v'chashdeo. You always need to be respectful of others, but be suspicious, and therefore don't just give your house to just anybody without knowing more about him. You know, when you come home, there may be nothing left there. Yeah, you never know. He has a long beard. So what? Is the beard a guarantee for the Yirat Shamayim he has? No. Yeah. You know the saying in English: with such friends who needs enemies, right? That's right. And there are people like that who are worse than enemies. You know, who you thought that they were friends. Anyway, that leads us to your question. I mean, is there anything that we can tell before an etzara about an individual? And I think there is. In saying the words, the pasuk beforehand, "Mefitz v'chere v'chetz shanun ish oneh b're'eu et shaker," that there are certain individuals who are very harmful to society, who can do a lot of damage by speaking about others, saying lashon hara. I think the fact that this pasuk of false testimony, of speaking about others, is next to this pasuk about bogdim, is possibly because he's trying to tell us that if you hear an individual talking about others, looking down at others, being disrespectful of others in a very, very abusive way, speaking lashon hara about them, be wary of him, because that same individual who is able to talk that way about others may one day talk about you that way too. So when you see an individual who has this midah, this characteristic of lashon hara, in abuse of others, taking advantage of, you don't want to be his partner. Just because he's your friend, who's to say or who's to guarantee that he won't treat you that way one day? After all, he may have a tremendous yetzer for money. And when people have a yetzer for money, they covet money, they may be willing to do almost anything to get their hands on more money. You know, even though this was a good friend yesterday, so what? Money is a better friend to them. Yeah. So therefore, if you notice this midah of lashon hara, of looking down at other people, discriminating others, you know, that's something that you should be immediately suspicious of. That maybe he has no integrity. He could not make a good friend. Right? For a friend to be a really solid, good friend, he has to have a certain amount of integrity, right? Solid in his midot. And that is why the rabbis tell us something very powerful. Whoever does not have a solid friendship or solid friendships, or whoever cannot get too close to anybody in this world, whoever cannot demonstrate true love for another individual, he can never reach Ahavat Hashem, the love for Hashem. Because you first have to have a solid relationship with another individual to be able to grow and take that beautiful love or strong relationship that you've demonstrated to have with another human being and carry it one step further and have it with Hashem. If you cannot have it with human beings, how can you have it with HaKadosh Baruch Hu you do not see? So, Mi shechaser lo be'ahavat ra'im, chaser lo be'ahavat Hashem, they say. Whoever is lacking in the love of friendship, and now we're going to be reading Parshat Kedoshim, ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. One of the pirushim on that pasuk, I've explained in the past, is that you should have such an individual that you can give your utmost to. And that is a tremendous asset. As the rabbis in Pirkei Avot tell us, K'nei lecha chaver, it should be your kinyan, it should be like a possession, not just once in a while. Something that you can really call your own, and that he can call your own, his own. And of course, if one is able to have that, that is indicative that he can have a good, solid relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu too. Yeah,
Maybe, a person feels he has a good friend, but the rabbis also say that you can't really tell about a friend until you test him with his costs, and his, the pocketbook.
Right. In the Sefer Orchot Tzadikim and elsewhere, it says how you can test a friend. You don't want to test too much because it doesn't look good either. Because you're not trusting. There are ways that you can indirectly figure it out without even intentionally testing. With time, you're able to tell. And the Etz Sarah that Shlomo Melech mentions during difficult moments, either somebody is going to disappoint you, or it will only be reinforced that he was always a true friend.
What do you think? You could ask him to loan you some money, and he says no. Then you realize that.
Well, it depends. Maybe he doesn't have the money. Maybe he can't. He may not tell you all the reasons. The lending of money is not always an indicator. Yeah, there's other things. He may be tight on money, depending on the amount of money. Anyway, the ones who we have, as Ami said, we have the greatest trouble with trusting, of course, is the Erev Rav. Those multitudes of neshamot that today are mixed with us in Am Yisrael, and sometimes it's difficult to know who it is because many of them are religious. But they have the characteristics of the Erev Rav, that they're not loyal to Judaism completely. And being loyal to Judaism means to love every Jew no matter what his background is. And unfortunately not everybody has that. So there are these individuals out there that if you ever wonder why they don't love Jews, well, maybe they're because they're the Erev Rav. They're originally not Jewish neshamot, and therefore they don't have that love and care for another Jew. Okay, next pasuk. Ma'adeh beged b'yom kara chometz al nater v'shar bashirim alev ra. It's a difficult pasuk, but basically what it means is like this: a worn-out garment on a cold day is like vinegar on chalk, and so is one who sings songs to a broken heart. He's trying to say that there are various things in life and various individuals who are not helpful. Just like a worn-out garment on a cold day, it will not protect you. It's useless. Or another interpretation of ma'adeh beged is not a worn-out beged, but if one takes off his beged in a cold day, you will actually obviously feel cold. So a worn-out garment, or one who removes his garment, or vinegar on chalk, it destroys the chalk, the ability for the chalk, I guess, to do whatever it's meant to do. So is one who sings songs to a broken heart. When a person has a broken heart, meaning that he's very, very sad and depressed, and he's in pain. It's not just sad and depressed. Singing to him will not help him. The pain will always still be there. You can't relieve him of his pain by singing to him a song. He's giving examples of some things that are useless. And there are some individuals out there that do things that are useless. You want to help someone? You want to really help him in his time of need. You don't just want to sympathize with him and, even though sympathizing with somebody is nice too, but if you have really the ability to help, then you should help him in a very constructive way. Not do something which is useless, like singing songs, a levra, somebody who's heartbroken, somebody who's in pain. Rabbis tell us about this pasuk. It's talking about also a Talmid Chacham who teaches. A Talmid Ra, Lev Ra, is a student who is not serious about fulfilling what he's learning right now. So don't teach him. If you know beforehand that he has not a good heart, he's not serious, don't waste your time with him. Next pasuk is a very interesting pasuk. Im ra'ev sonacha achileu lachem v'imtzameh ashkeu mayim. If your enemy is hungry, feed him bread, and if he's thirsty, give him water to drink. Who are we talking about? We're talking basically about a Jewish enemy. Somebody who one dislikes, who doesn't get along with, would rather not see him, regardless. If he comes across him and that enemy or that individual who he does not like is in trouble, he has a flat tire, he's hungry, whatever it is, help him out. It is very easy to refuse. It is very easy to ignore and to look away. But Shlomo Melech tells us basically also what the Torah says about somebody seeing his enemy's donkey overloaded, falling with his load. Right? It's also tzar balechayim. There we're also concerned about the pain of the animal. But here, Shlomo Melech adds another twist to that. It's not just the animal. In this case, it's not your enemy's animal. It's he himself is hungry. Give him to eat. Why? First of all, you don't want to stoop down to his level. Just because he's not kind to you doesn't mean that you don't have to be kind to him. That's number one. Simple. You don't want to stoop down to his level. You are instructed to be kind to every Jew. Just because you don't like him, he did something to you in the past, it doesn't mean that in his time of need, we're not talking about when he's comfortable and everything is okay, in his real time of need, that you should ignore him. Feed him and give him to drink. But the twist over here is that Shlomo Melech is basically saying that if you do go ahead and feed him and give him to drink and help him out, the next pasuk will explain what will happen as a result of that. Ki gechalim ata chote al rosho v'Adonai yishalem lach. If you help him, you will be scooping coals on his head, and Hashem will reward you. Like taking hot coals and putting on his head. He will be so uncomfortable that his enemy is helping him out, that you will have defeated him and perhaps even removed the enmity between the two of you. As the rabbis explain on the pasuk, the commentators explain on the pasuk, Azov ta'azov imo. When you help out your enemy with his donkey, it says Azov ta'azov. Azov ta'azov literally means let go. And the interpretation there is not to let go, is to actually help him unload. So why does it say Azov ta'azov? So the commentators explain, if you help your enemy with his donkey, it's your enemy, ata ozev et hasin'ah. You are letting go of the sin'ah between you. That's the result of your action of helping an enemy. People look at it the wrong way. Why should I help him? This is an opportunity to break up that enmity between you, to cool it off. If it's at all possible, this is your opportunity. Go for it. And that's what Shlomo Melech is saying. It's like hot coals that you're putting on his head. He will be uncomfortable. He'll be embarrassed. And at least he won't go out against you. At least he won't fight you. Whether he becomes your friend or not is another story, but at least you would have brought some control to the situation. But the rest of the pasuk adds, Vashem yishalem lach, Hashem will reward you. How will Hashem reward you? Because you were kind to him, even though he hasn't been kind to you, he will not allow that enemy of yours to succeed in any plot against you. Hashem's reward to you will be to make sure that that enemy does not have the upper hand if there's ever chas v'shalom a confrontation between the two of you. As another pasuk says, Birtzot Hashem darchei ish gam oivav yashlim ito. When Hashem approves of a man's ways, even his enemies will make peace with him. They won't bother him because Hashem approves of his ways. Hashem is happy with him. If Hashem would be happy with Am Yisrael completely today, the enemies would not threaten us, they would not cause us any trouble, we would have peace. A lack of peace with the enemy is one of the indicators that something wrong with us, not with the enemy. The enemy is just a tool. So here, by being kind to another Jew, even though you don't like him, it could go a long way of settling the matter, whatever issues you may have had with him, and bringing everything under control. So don't be cruel to your enemy, don't stoop down to his level, and on the contrary, if you help him out, you will be rewarded. that at least he will not have the upper hand against you, and the things will be brought under control. That's called the true nitzachon. Defeating him is not by avoiding him, by ignoring him, not being kind to him. Defeating him is to do the opposite of what he's been doing, is to be good, to be kind to him. It's like hot coals on his head. At the very least, he will be embarrassed, he will feel uncomfortable, and he won't treat you anymore as an enemy. Yes? Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure. And the rabbis tell us that this pasuk is also talking about the Yetzer Hara. Who is your enemy? The Yetzer Hara. If he's hungry, feed him. If he's thirsty, give him to drink. What should you feed him? What do you feed the Yetzer Hara? Torah. In other words, if your Yetzer Hara is hungry and one is tempted to do something wrong because of his Yetzer, he's thirsty, he's hungry, feed him Torah, bring him to the Bet HaMidrash. And as the Rambam brings it down, and the rabbis emphasize that the Yetzer can only overtake one if his mind and heart are empty of Chokhmah. If one is sitting idle at home, doing nothing, not learning, not reading stories at least of tzaddikim, not doing something constructive, even doing something else which has nothing to do but at least occupied, busy doing something, then the Yetzer Hara begins to occupy his mind with all sorts of thoughts that are no good, that are not healthy. The Yetzer Hara can only invade the mind and take over if the mind is empty. But if the mind is preoccupied with whatever it may be, but especially with Torah and Chokhmah, the Yetzer Hara cannot really take control. Yeah.
This point is very important. Why, in the famous story with Kamsa and Bar Kamsa, why did the host of the party didn't feed his enemy, and the rabbi said nothing about it. So we lost the second base of Mikdash because of...
Yeah, I'm going to talk about that soon. Yeah, a little bit. I'm going to talk a little bit about that. What that means. Well, remember, it takes a lot of courage to break down the barriers of hatred, and that's why Aaron was very much praised for going out of his way to bring two people together by actually saying something which was not true. Your friend that you're very upset at, he feels terrible. He's actually crying. He can't go to sleep. Aaron was making up a story. He says, really? He feels so bad about it? Yeah. Couldn't go to sleep last night. He would go over to the other individual and say the same thing. I just met your friend, and he feels terrible. He's really regretful of what happened, of what he said to you, of what he did to you. And he's so embarrassed. He feels terrible. Really. When those two would meet, they would embrace, not knowing that Aaron put this together. He was Ohev Shalom Verodef Shalom, and that's the right thing to do. Yeah.
But the rabbis didn't do it. Rabbi at the bank.
They didn't do it. Right. They didn't do it. That was a problem.
They learned Mishlei. Mishlei was written already.
You're going to see from the next Pesukim, you're going to see what issues exist. And as a result of these issues, people act the way they act. The greater one is, the greater his Yetzer is. Yeah, that's also true, of course. But here, what he's mentioning is the fact that a whole generation, it was not just one individual, two individuals, it was many people that had that problem.
What I'm saying is that, like, righteous people, like, they have Torah, and, like, they're usually very busy people, and they're, so how does the
Well, the Yetzer Hara has many ways of getting in. Remember that when one is born, he already has his Yetzer with him, right? And the Yetzer Hara is 13 years older than the Yetzer Tov, so he has a head start, right? And therefore, if one does not acquire certain habits, certain good habits, to defeat that Yetzer Hara will always be after him. And you have to be strong to defeat the Yetzer Hara. It's not something that's that you just say, well, I'm not going to do it. The Yetzer Hara can be very powerful, very tempting, because the Yetzer Hara works not only in the heart, he works with the mind. He uses the mind as an attorney to justify and rationalize everything. So he's very powerful. So there are tools that you can use to defeat the Yetzer Hara almost all the time. But you have to be willing to use the tools. So I'm going to give you an example of a tool, a very powerful tool, to be able to defeat the Yetzer Hara. Don't trust your own judgment. When you're in doubt about something, ask the opinion of another individual. Then you're not biased. But the individual who knows that this is a tool, might say to himself, it's okay, I don't need to ask. or I'm embarrassed of asking. He has to contend with a lot of additional obstacles before he even uses this powerful tool. He has to contend with his kavod, with his ego, if he has that yetzirah. Or he may have the problem of being shy, of asking. There may be additional obstacles of him getting to a... But he has some built-in by default, some built-in yetzarim that are there already from his birth, from his mazal. Right? Everybody with his mazal, with his natiyot, with his inclinations, whether it's arrogance, whether it's anger. And that person who's temperamental needs to learn musar. But is he going to be learning musar 24 hours a day? No. Right? He's going to be learning musar, let's say, half an hour a day. It may help or may not help, depending on the degree of his anger, depending on what makes him angry. If he's stuck with a wife under the same roof that makes him angry, every other day, it's going to be a big challenge. Very big challenge. So he has to be a big tzaddik to be quiet and to not answer back. You see, there are different kinds of challenges. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu does not give you a challenge that you cannot contend with, that you cannot deal with. You are able to defeat the Yetzer no matter what you're facing. It's just, it requires you willing to use the tools that are out there. And obviously, if people are not always aware at every moment that this is a Yetzer Hara, and it's not just something in their mind, it's a real Yetzer trying to attack them, then they may be caught in an ambush by the Yetzer. The Yetzer sets up ambushes. The rabbi tells, be careful not to say, I defeated the Yetzer yesterday, I'm going to defeat him today. Because every day he dresses up differently. He uses a different costume.
There's a struggle, too.
And he's very tricky. Yeah. So no matter how righteous you are and how smart you are, if you're not, you have to be careful. And not everybody's very, very careful. And that's why things happen. All right. Next pasuk. Ruach tzafon techolel gashem ufanim niz'amim lashon sater. As the north wind begets rain, it brings the clouds, it brings the rain, so a backbiting tongue begets an angry countenance. I like the Hebrew better than the English. The English doesn't sound too good. It basically works like this. He's talking about lashon hara. Ruach tzafon techolel geshem. The wind brings rain. Panim niz'amim lashon sater. Lashon sater is lashon hara. Panim niz'amim means a face that you can see all over it that he's angry, he's upset. A person who speaks lashon hara and he sees, this is one pirush, and he sees that the individuals who are listening to him are becoming upset because of what he's saying, guess what that does to him? It gives them additional fuel to continue to talk. Like the wind that brings rain, the reaction on the countenance, on the face of the people listening to the lashon hara will either stimulate or make him stop. So you have to be careful. What is he talking about? He's talking or warning those who are listening, be careful, lo lekabel lashon hara. I don't believe it, I don't accept it, I'm not sure. Maybe you don't know what you're talking about, maybe you didn't see it exactly. So instead of just becoming angry and upset and feeding this lashon hara, that is one pirush. Another pirush is that whoever speaks lashon hara, panim niz'amim, it causes HaKadosh Baruch Hu to be upset. As the rabbis tell us, En ha-geshamim ne'etzarim, on this pasuk they said it, En ha-geshamim ne'etzarim ela biglal lashon hara, misaper lashon hara. The rain stops. There is lack of rain once in a while because of this reason alone, that there's a lot of lashon hara going on. Hashem is upset. People don't realize that when they talk lashon hara, at that moment the Satan is talking about them in the Shamayim. We are usually in court once a year, Rosh Hashanah, Kippur. Anybody who speaks lashon hara is bringing himself to court voluntarily every single day, every single time he speaks lashon hara. It's an incredible thing. It's an incredible idea. Usually a person is not judged except either on Rosh Hashanah or when are the books open, when he's in a sakana. A soldier going to war, they open up his books. They examine, should we make a miracle or not? He's about to step on a mine. The bullets are about to fly. Should we make him pick up a wallet that he just dropped now so he doesn't... You see what I mean? They have to control the situation. They have to do a nes. They examine his book. Should we make a nes or not? Should he just get injured? Should he not continue? Should he fall asleep? when people are in a sakana. Otherwise, they don't open up your books until Rosh Hashanah. When a person speaks Lashon Hara, he's causing the books to be open, and that's why he's being taken to court, and the Satan Gam ke medaber alav Lashon Hara. The Satan will also speak about him. So it's a very risky business to speak Lashon Hara. And that leads us to what you were talking about, the Kamsa and Bar Kamsa. Lashon Hara is really a symptom of Sinat Hinam. Sinat Hinam, baseless hatred, is a problem. When people are disrespectful of each other, people are not kind to each other, people don't care about the welfare of another, they will easily talk about another too. If you don't care about somebody, you can easily talk about them. So Sinat Hinam and Lashon Hara go together. Why does a person say Lashon Hara? Because he has Sinat Hinam. If he has Sinat Hinam, he can easily speak Lashon Hara, because he doesn't care. So when many Jews, unfortunately back then, had this kind of behavior of Sinat Hinam, what did it lead to? It led to a complete lack of unity amongst them, a complete breakdown. Then what good is all the Torah? That is when Rabbi Akiva came up with the famous saying, "V'aftara lecha kamocha ze klal gadol b'Torah." It's not just a mitzvah. It is a very important klal to the preservation of the Torah, to the preservation of the Jewish nation. Without that mitzvah, one can easily transgress many mitzvot. Without v'aftara lecha kamocha, one can easily steal, one can easily cheat, one can easily lie, one can easily covet, one can easily not pay on time his workers, because he doesn't care. He has no v'aftara lecha kamocha. So that's why v'aftara lecha kamocha is the klal gadol b'Torah. If one is really fulfilling this one mitzvah, he's fulfilling basically the entire Torah. The Torah depends on this one pasuk.
We say, Rabbi, that 24,000 students of Rabbi Akiva didn't have
right, that's when he came up with this pasuk, exactly. He says, what good is the Torah that you learn? Tremendous Tamei Chachamim, but if there's no respect, if you care about each other, what is the Torah good for? Therefore, is a klal gadol. It's a very important part of the Torah. It's an important rule in the Torah. Another interpretation of this pasuk, when you see a face that is very upset, if this is an individual that you knew from before, and all of a sudden you see him one day being very upset and not looking nicely at you, it could be indicative that he heard Lashon Hara about you. Very possible. I think the Gaon of Vilna says that. If you see an individual who you've known him for a while, all of a sudden he's looking at you in a funny way, he's not the same smile anymore, then it's very possible that he heard Lashon Hara about you. And obviously then you want to investigate, you want to look into it. As I've explained, the commentaries tell us in the pasuk, Ocheach tachiach et amitecha. Give musar to your friend. What pasuk comes before giving musar? Lo tisna et achicha bilvavecha. Don't hate your brother. Don't hate your fellow Jew. What's the connection between the two? If you have something against somebody, ocheach tochiach, tell him. Don't keep it in your heart. Don't keep it inside. Bring it out. Let him know so that it should be corrected. What good is it that you keep it inside? If you have something against someone, you don't like something about someone, somebody did something to you, ocheach tochiach, let him know. It's not fair. Maybe he give him a chance to ask for forgiveness too. So you have to, some people just keep everything inside. It's part of their nature. And that's not too good. If you keep your anger too long in your heart, you know what could happen? Some green liquid may be vomited, coming from the bile. From the bile, you know where the bile is? Right? There's green liquid. When a person gets very angry, upset, and he keeps it inside, doesn't talk about it, that's what could happen. And it happens. Why? An acid reflux? Yeah.
We're supposed to judge favorably, though.
Right. But to judge favorably, you have to get into that mindset. You have to learn about that and very much believe in it and develop it. A lot of people learn through Sifrei Musar, but they don't practice what they preach and they don't implement what they've learned. It's not easy to implement it. A lot of people would like to stop smoking, but they don't even try. Or as soon as it becomes too hard, they just give up. And this is not any different. Midot are difficult to change. You can't really change them. They're difficult to control. So anyway, one has to be careful with Lashon Hara. It's a very dangerous tool. It causes a tremendous amount of trouble to the individual who's saying the Lashon Hara, and obviously to the one who is being said about. That leads us to the next pasuk, which I think we've mentioned it once or twice before. Shlomo Melech almost word for word says it again. And you wonder why, and I'll tell you soon why. Tov shevet al pinat gag me'eshet midvanim u'bet haver. It is better to sit on the corner of a roof than to be in the same house with a quarrelsome wife. Even in a house where it's full of companionship. Again, he's picking on a quarrelsome wife. Why? Because of the point of Lashon Hara over here. That's the connection. That certain women, not all, but certain women have this weakness of talking a lot. And when you talk a lot, you can easily fall in the trap of Lashon Hara. Just the fact that one is talking a lot, it can easily lead to all sorts of things that are forbidden. And when he is stuck with a quarrelsome wife, you know what that could lead to? You know, she can tell him, hit him, the guy who was not nice to you, or go do something else to him, or I'm gonna tell on him. A person who has no control of himself, the tongue is a very powerful tool. And if this woman is a quarrelsome woman, not a good woman, it's better not to be in the same house with such an individual, because you're hearing Lashon Hara too. You're hearing it from her. So what does he say? It's better to sit on the corner of a roof. What does that mean? The corner of a roof means even though you're by yourself outside without a roof over your head. Or as the saying goes in many languages, you're better off being by yourself than being in bad company. That's the saying. Yeah, you don't want to be around such individuals. In other words, that is how dangerous it is. And as I think I explained last time, when you're dating someone, if somebody has a big mouth, maybe you should think twice about it. You know, very talkative, very, very much into gossip. Is that what you want? You know, I don't think so. Next pasuk, Maim karim al nefesh ayefa u'shmu'a tova me'eretz merchak. As cold water to a faint soul, it's always good news from a distant country. I think he mentioned something similar before. It's very good to be a messenger with good news. What does this have to do with what we've just said? We've been speaking about Lashon Hara. Lashon Hara is a messenger of bad news, of false news. You don't want to tell people bad things if you don't need to. You don't want to be the messenger of bad news. But you do want to be the messenger of Shmu'a Tova. Shmu'a Tova, bringing good news, saying something kind to someone, something good that will gladden his heart. That, yes, that you should always want to do. Because that's like Maim Karim al Nefesh Hayefa. The good news will actually feel very good. It will be like cold water to a faint soul. If it feels good, that, yes, if you have good things to say, under the right circumstances, you should say it. Next pasuk, Ma'ayan nirpas makor moshchat tzadik mat lifnei rasha. A righteous man slipping before a wicked man is like muddied spring in a ruined fountain. We're talking about a tzaddik, but a tzaddik that unfortunately is not courageous enough to tell off the rasha, to teach the rasha the right thing, because he's afraid of him. He's therefore mat. He's slipping before a wicked man. So he is like a muddied spring in a ruined fountain. Spring is the chokhmah. His chokhmah is therefore put to waste. It's like being destroyed by not putting it to use. I mean, what is all the chokhmah for if he's going to be afraid? Torah very much warns the judges not to be afraid of anybody, to be fair, not to discriminate between the rich and the poor, between the one who is more important and one who is less important. But tzedek tishpot amitecha, also in the Torah, in this week's parasha. Be very careful to judge righteously, with justice. People have a problem. People see a rich man, they see a poor man. The poor man is probably out to get the rich man's money. They may think like that. Or, how can I embarrass the president of the community? This guy is okay, it's going to be okay. Or, I'm going to find the poor man innocent because the rich man has got enough money anyway. You can't do that. You have to be careful. But tzedek tishpot amitecha, you have to do things right. And one does not do things right if he's tzaddik mat lifnei rasha, if he bends over, if he slips, as he calls it over here, before a wicked man, then he's like muddied spring in a ruined fountain. He's putting to waste his chokhmah, his knowledge. Okay, we just have, I think, two more pesukim. Achol devash harbot lo tov v'cheker kevodam kavod. Eating honey to excess is not good, but fathoming their honor is honor. This is similar to the pasuk. The first part of the pasuk is similar to what we said in the very beginning about eating honey. So eating honey to excess is not good. That we understand by now. We understand that anything that is in excess is no good. And now he's about to say that there's one area where you do want to have a lot of. And that is fathoming their honor is honor. What does it mean, fathoming their honor? Talking about the greatness of tzaddikim. Praising them. Reading about them. Talking about them. Even if you talk a lot about tzaddikim and about their ways of life, this will lead to their honor. Fathoming their honor is honor. It will lead to honor. So therefore that is something good. That is something that one should do with his children, with himself, to read the life stories of tzaddikim in many ways that will help him, hopefully, with wanting to become like them. So that's something that you could do a lot. You should do a lot. Last pasuk of the Perek, very, very powerful pasuk, talking about a loose tongue, but not necessarily lashon hara. He describes it as follows: Ir perutza en choma, ish asher en ma'atzar lerucho. Like a broken city without a wall, so is a man whose spirit is unrestrained. What does it mean, an ir perutza? Where is there a city? Well, it's a mashal. A city has defenses. A wall is a good defense. If a city does not have a good defense, the enemy can easily come in. Right? What is the defense of the mouth? HaKadosh Baruch Hu put various defenses in the mouth. The mouth is powerful. He put the tongue, he put the teeth, he put the lips. You can close them. He put various defenses. But one whose spirit is unrestrained, he basically breaks through the defenses. So he's like a broken city without a wall. And this is very dangerous. Unrestrained, which means that he will get angry and say things. And when people get angry and they're unrestrained, they will say things that they will later regret, because a word that is said cannot be taken back. That's why the defenses are there. But some people, of course, have a hard time, with these defenses, and they're like a broken city whose spirit, an individual whose spirit is not restrained. The rabbis tell us that a person who does not watch himself with his temper, with his tongue, mekalkel nafsho, he's ruining his nefesh too. He's not just ruining his name, his reputation. It's not just the speech, and it's not just the words that come out. It is actually doing something to his nefesh, to his soul, to his spirit. He who is unrestrained. It takes a tremendous amount of courage, of course, to hold yourself back, and that is why the rabbis praise not the geniuses, because that's a talent that one is born with. That's a gift from Hashem. And we've talked about it before, about the true strength lies not in conquering a city or in defeating the enemy, but in holding yourself back, in not talking back, in being restrained. That is a very, very powerful midah. And the opposite is a very unfortunate midah, one who cannot restrain himself. That is how he ends this perek, having spoken again about the serious damage that lashon hara does, and how much it all depends on one restraining his tongue. One who restrains his tongue, therefore, will be able to spare himself of many troubles, as the pasuk says, and we've covered this pasuk before. Shomer pivu leshono, shomer mitzarat nafsho. Whoever guards his mouth and tongue, whoever watches what he says, thinks twice about it, doesn't rush to talk, then he will not be talking stupidities, he will not be talking nonsense, he will not say the wrong thing, because he will think about what he's about to say. And as a result of thinking about what he's going to say, he won't say the wrong things. And this is very important in one's home. A husband telling his wife something not nice, she'll remember it for the rest of their lives. Even if he asks forgiveness, she'll remind him later. I remember what you told me 20 years ago. Yeah, but I already asked you to forgive me and you said fine. No, but it'll come back again. The scar will always be there. It's not forgotten. Words are very powerful. They can hurt people's feelings. Because if you say, you know what they say about certain expressions, that there's some truth to them. Even though you said it jokingly, there could be some, not always, but there could be some truth to them. So when one says something to those who supposedly he cares about, then maybe he doesn't really care so much about them. Otherwise, how could he bring himself to say that word? And I'll give you one quick example. Imagine one good friend calling another good friend, "Are you crazy?" And a lot of people use this term very, very loosely, right? I'm very careful with that, about those who I really care for. I mean, I don't even use it with just anybody either. But especially those who you are very close to, it's insulting. It's insulting to say to somebody who you really care, "Are you crazy?" You know, was using such a bad word like crazy. I mean, it is a bad word, even though you don't really mean it. So why did you say it? I just gave you a small example. There's many, many examples. In how you handle yourself with others, how you speak to them, says a lot. It says a tremendous amount. And this is an area where you can control yourself, where you can easily learn. In speaking correctly to people, it begins at home, of course it follows with one's children, it follows with other people. And sometimes, of course, it's very difficult, because when people yell at you, when they speak to you in a negative way, you're tempted to answer back. Just yesterday, one of my workers was confronted with a car going through a goy, of course. And the goy in the car yelled at the other goy, "Why don't you move, get out of the way?" And of course he yelled back at him and says, come over, let's fight it out." Typical goyish mentality. Of course the guy never came. Yeah, and a lot of Jews, I can see them doing the same thing. They're driving and somebody before them is not moving, honking their horn, doing something with their fingers. If they're very temperamental, they can, and if they're Israelis, forget it. Yeah, then they lose control completely, because they're used to it. So in order to restrain yourself, one has to, of course, learn chokhmah, one has to learn musar, and one has to really know the danger that lies in these words and what it does to his nefesh. One really cares about his health, he does not smoke, right? If one really cares about his nefesh, then he's careful with what comes out of his mouth, in the same way that he's careful with what goes into his mouth. It's the same thing. And kol sheken, if it's not just idle talk, kol sheken, if it's lashon hara, klalot, curses, bad mouth, this is very destructive to the neshama. The rabbis tell us whoever says bad words, even if he had 70 good years decreed for him, they tear up the good decree for using bad language. Nivul peh. If he had such a good decree for 70 good years coming to him, but he was menabel piv. All of this from the mouth. You see how many averot one can do with his mouth, but in the other way, one can also do a lot of mitzvot with his mouth. To give tzedakah is big mitzvah. To give encouragement to the poor man with a few words is even a bigger mitzvah. And if you do the two, you're blessed with a lot of blessings. You get 11 mitzvot.
6 mitzvahs if you just give tzedakah, and
so that would make it 51 mitzvahs per day if you gave based on what you said. So anyway, this is a tremendous challenge for all of us, how we use our mouth. But just remember, in the way one uses it could determine, of course, what will be with his nefesh. Yeah.
But the receiver of the negative remark, like you just said with the husband and wife, if he ignores that remark, he could avoid a lot more.
Yeah, whoever ignores offensive remarks, it's a kapara for him.
Right.
Yeah, but sometimes depending on the situation, you may have to calm the situation down, so you may have to say something. But and it's hard, because you're upset, you're tense right now. When a person is, of course, calm, then the chances are that he will not get into that kind of a mood unless the person did something or said something really terrible. It all depends what kind of a mood you're in too. But more important than anything else is the importance of learning musar regularly, because the musar reminds us about these things. And it's like criticizing yourself when you read the Sefer Musar, without waiting for somebody else to criticize. Oh, I see that in me. I better be careful with this or with that. Therefore, we cannot avoid not learning Musar. It's not possible for the individual to have enough strength to do battle with the Yetzer Hara if he does not learn Torah, if he does not seek the Musar and see his weaknesses and to begin to do something about it. But I'd just like to finish that we have a rule, שכל הבא לטהר מסייעין אותו מן השמיים, whoever makes an attempt to refine his character, to work on himself, to work on his relationship, then HaKadosh Baruch Hu B'ezrat Hashem will be on his side. He will help him out. B'ezrat Hashem.